In this video, you're going to be building the Dev.to Web 3.0 app, and you're going to be using Infura to connect this app to the Ethereum blockchain. We're going to be using Solidity to write our smart contract that we'll be deploying to the blockchain. You're going to be able to create and upload new posts, which others will be able to read and also give a thumbs up on. So this is your reminder to give a thumbs up to this video and subscribe to our channel. So with that said, let's just jump straight into a build.
All right. So step number one will be just going into your preferred location. To me, that's what it's going to be. And then just typing in MPX Clever Programmer without typos, preferably, because that's our custom built CLI tool. Now, you just pop in your email address and name right there. And then you want to go for Solidity blog. Now, once you selected that, it's going to be the perfect time to smash that like button, because it's going to take a little bit of time to set up your project. Now, once this goes through, you're going to know it because it will open up VS Code for you. So let's wait for that. Oh, nice. So this one's good. Just double check before we get started that you have all the node modules ready, both in the app folder, wrong tool, and like outside there. I don't know why I showed the other way around, but you get the point. And then once it's good, or if you don't, you just go ahead and npm install it and you're good to go. So once that's done, you just want to open up your terminal and then type in yarn dev. That will start this local server, which if you copy and pop it in your Chrome, basically this is what you get. And congratulations, you have set up your app. All right. All right, so step two is going to be obviously creating the contract. So let's actually go ahead and create them. So what I just did is press Command J and these terminal windows popped up, and you can just create like a new one right there. So what you can do is type in truffle, and if you don't have the truffle CLI installed, no worries. You just go Google for truffle CLI install, and it will pop up how to do it. That's it. Go ahead, click that guy. And then here are the detailed thingies on how you do it. All right. So what you want to do is type in, actually moving forward, I'll just assume you have these things ready. And whenever something new pops up, I'll just explain how to install, but I'll move forward like if you had it. So pause it right now, install, and then we can go ahead. So what you want to type in is truffle create tract, and then you want to create a blog factory. And you want to add the factory after it. I'll explain a little bit why. And then just hit the up arrow and then change this to post. Now, if you recognize it, there's a new folder right there and two files with the exact same names that we just typed in. So there is our factory and there is our post. These are like super basic stuff, like super basic contracts, but it's a contract, so that's what we came for. Now what you want to do is actually first understand why it is the way it is and why did we just make this factory. So here's how we're going to work. We will have a factory that will basically produce all the other posts. So what does that mean? We will only deploy this factory contract, and all the posts that we will later, like when we build the app, each of those posts will be a separate contract, meaning each post will have its own 0x something yada address. And so all the traits and all the details will be stored in the contract on the blockchain. And this is just a super efficient way. To keep track of everything you want to keep track of. So what's going to happen? We'll deploy this guy. And then in this one, we'll have a create blog post function, which will go ahead and create a post for us, and then create another post. Woohoo! That was supposed to be a P, and another post. That's why it's called a factory. Does that make sense? If not, just rewind it real quick, and obviously I'll explain again. Duh. All right. So that's the concept behind it. Let's go ahead and make it happen. So initially, what you want to do is, I really like when it's like split view, and I'm just gonna zoom in for you so you can see it better. All right, that should be good. So what you want to do, the very first is just make sure the Solidity version is 0.816 in both files, and then for now we're just gonna work in the post file for a little bit. So what you want to do is we'll define a couple of variables in here. Obviously, each post will have and that's going to be an address in this case because we're Web3. This is going to be a public address, and it's going to be called author. And then we're going to have a string, which is going to be public again. It's going to be post title. Next up, we're going to have a UN256 without the 9. It's going to be like count, because you want to count how many people liked your post, right? Then a tag. Basically, it's going to be like a hashtag. If you go to the repo link down below in the description, scroll down, there's a screenshot, and you'll be able to see where the tag is. That's what's going to be stored in there. Next up, a timestamp. Actually, there's going to be a content too, but I wanted to put in a timestamp. Timestamp, just like that. Yeah, whatever. Also, don't worry about all these errors. Sometimes we're going to address them, sometimes we're not. It's because I have a bunch of extra extensions that are checking for like code cleanness and all that stuff, which obviously freaks out because there's an empty constructor for no apparent reason. Now, the only thing I don't get is why doesn't it freak out here? I don't know. Anyways, so next up, what we're going to do is create the constructor. So what we're going to do is we'll have a function that'll call this constructor guy over here. And so for that, we got to set this boy up. We're going to pass in a couple things. So we'll pass in a string, and just get used to it. Like sometimes when you're dealing with strings, you got to type this memory thing in, but not with addresses. So that's just a weird Solidity thing. So we'll go with string memory, and it will be a underscore title. And this underscore is just so it indicates that it is a internal variable that is not going to be used outside this constructor at all. So it's only for internal use. Now next up, we're going to have the address for the author, and then we're going to have a tag, and we're going to have it for the timestamp, and we're going to have it for the content. Now, once we got all this, notice how we like skipped on like count. That's because we're just going to like hard code it in next section, because we're literally just catching whatever the factory is going to pass in. This is going to be caught here, and then we're going to do stuff with it here. So we just skipped on it. This is going to be hard coded. Not a big deal. Actually, I'll move it down there. Really not a big deal. So what you want to do is for each thing, so we got a post title, like just set the corresponding item. It like makes sense. Post title, you want the title thing, author tag, yada yada. And then obviously like count is going to be 0. And no likes. No big deal. So once we're good with that's basically how we're gonna if you want the contract to be known, yeah, whatever. All right, so before we set up the factory, time for a coffee break. With that done, we're gonna go ahead and start setting up our factory. Now, in the factory, there's no need for any kind of constructor. We're not constructing anything. In fact, the factory is going to be the constructor for your posts. You get the point. Completely ignore that. There was some weird stuff by Copilot. Sometimes it's weird, sometimes it's useful, but in this case it was weird. So what you want to do is what you want to do before creating anything is you gotta import the post. So import post.sol, so that's good. Now that will basically import everything from here. It's not like JavaScript where you have to like specifically one by one import it. No. Just import the file, you're good. So you have access to everything now. So we're going to create a new instance of this guy. So hence the capital post like that. And this is going to be an array of posts. That's how you do it in Solidity. Now, this guy's going to be public. And we're going to call it uploaded posts. So far, it should be easy. Next up, we're going to create 2 functions. They're going to be function number 1, create blog post. And then we're just going to leave it at that for now. Don't even worry about it. We're going to fix, actually, we can add public to it so it like goes away. Yeah, perfect. And then there's going to be a second function, which is going to be function get uploaded posts. Bam. And I think this is the easier one. So before we do anything with the create blog post, we're just gonna go ahead and return this. You can try by yourself. Just pause it if you want to. But if with that said, I'm just going to continue now. So what you want to do is in Solidity, you got to add this view keyword in here because you're returning something. So it's like the read access. And then you got to define what you're going to return. So returns, because this post return or this function returns, and so like third person. Wow. This is going to return a post array from the memory. All right, so that's good. We're going to return a post array. All right, now the only post array that we got is literally uploaded posts. So we're just going to return that. And Bob's your uncle. Now, creating a post is a little more tricky. So here, there's going to be a couple of props that we're going to need to pass in. It's going to be, there's going to be a string, again, string, memory, whatever. Post type, there's going to be string, memory. There's going to be tag. There's going to be timestamp, like that. And there's going to be content, just so. Now, here, what we'll do is, yeah, exactly that. So what's going to happen is we're going to create a new instance of post. Again, this guy. So here's going to be a new instance. Let's just name it new post. And it's going to be a new post. We defined all this in a specific order. So we got to follow that in here. All right. So what's going to be is we're going to have to send in post title. We're going to have to send in an address that's going to be the person who's the author, which in this case is going to be, we're going to say message. Yeah, message that's sender, which literally all that means is when you're using this app and then you click a button and your MetaMask pops open. Yeah, that address, that like your MetaMask address or whoever is the user. Next up, pass in tag, pass in time, stamp, and pass in content. That's it. So once you created that guy, figure out what's going on here. Missing something. Oh, might as well close that. Yeah, Solidity is a horror for me. It always requires these semicolons. Anyways, and what you want to do is, yeah, now that we created this array, technically, or now that we created this instance of the new post, might as well push it in the uploaded poster. And that's how we're going to store it. Just like that. So uploaded post, push, new post. Very JavaScript-y. I don't think it needs any explanation. So that's basically step one of the contract. Now what you want to do is come into extensions and type in remix, because that makes it infinitely easy to test out all of the contracts that you write and whatnot. This is the extension to get. It's from Remix Project 27. Yep, just look for it. You'll find it. Once you installed it, it doesn't need any kind of setup though. Once you install it, this is the icon that will pop up here. So just look for that. And before you do anything, just like this is your Solidity version. You have to make sure that the compiler you're using and version of Solidity you're writing in matches. So before you do anything, set compiler version right there and select 0.16. So now that is done, and actually you can confirm that it says that. So now that it's done, you want to click run and deploy and hit activate. Now what this is doing, it's pulling up a previous instance of mine, but I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect. So this is how you will see it. It might be completely empty or not, but if it is, we're going to figure out what to put there. So you want to open up a Safari window and go to trufflesuite.com/ganache. And by the way, you could use a testnet link given by Infura, or you could use a testnet link given by Infura, but this time you don't want to, because that needs like additional setup, and this is for testing purposes only. We're going to use Infura for the deployment. You want to download this guy. This will download a download file. Once you installed it, this is how it's going to look like. Actually, let me restart it. Once you installed Ganache, this is how it's going to look like when you start it. And you can literally hit quick start and it will pull up something like this. You will not see my instance because that's my instance, but there you go. Here's your everything, gives you a bunch of ETH. Now, This link is coming from right here. Copy this guy, put it in, click connect. You're good. And it should say something like network is local or a custom network, and you won't see any of that stuff. So I'm removing that. This is how you will see it. Now what you want to do is select, like literally open the block factory file, because that's where we're going to be doing things. So initially what you want to do is select the block factory, hit compile, wait for it to go through. And I open this output thing up right here so you can see it. So it has issues. So it has issues with the constructor. So that means it's this file. Okay, so maybe let's remove public. Let's see if that helps. I'm just going to remove everything. See if that fixed it. And apparently it did. So we're good there. And once you hit compile, it's going to create this artifacts folder. Now this is where the ABI goes. You don't have to worry about it just yet. We're going to be using it in a little. So once that's done, just hit deploy. Now it deployed one instance of my block factory. What you want to just put in some dummy data, so title, tag, timestamp, and content. And yeah, I know it's not timestamp, but we also just made it a string, and it's also only for testing purposes, so it doesn't really matter. Hit transact, and that should technically go through. And so you will see a bunch of addresses and gas used and whatever. Don't even worry about it at all. Now, what you need to do now is call this get uploaded posts. What this will do is literally just return this. Why is that important? Because here we created an address. We created a new post instance. So what that does is it generates an address to us, or an address for us, where we will deploy that specific post. That's what I was talking about when I had that stupid drawing. So click that. So click that and scroll down, and here's your array. That is your address that you want to copy. Now, copy that address and paste it in here. So what this will do is that you specify which address you want to deploy your post at. So we gotta compile post. So let's do that real quick. That's good. And then select post and copy these exact things in here. So you want to do title, skip address for a little bit, just put in tag, time, and now content. Now for address, you want to put in this address, like basically your address, which you can actually copy by coming here, I think. Yeah, it's the same address. So just like double click that and then put that there. So Ganache helps with that too. You can't just copy it from here. And now what you will do is don't press that. Nah. What you want to do is press at this. So specify this will specifically push or deploy this contract to that address that was generated for us. Let's do that. And these two addresses should match. So it's 0x07E2. That's exactly what we started here. And here's our address, or here's our post. So what you can do is, I'm just going to clean the output again and click author. And you should literally get back your address that you put in. You just put in there. Content. Like count, it should be 0. There you go. That's all we did for now. And this is your first function. If you get back all this data that you put in here, you can test out all of them. If you get back the exact same data, you're good to go. You're good to continue. If not, there's likely some sort of mistake in either this or this file. You definitely want to go through it and debug it before continuing. All right, now moving forward, I'm going to be speeding up a little bit and close this run deploy thingy for now. Also hide that. And by the way, our factory is essentially done. That's literally all we have to do for the factory. So I'm just going to close that too, because we're not going to need it anymore. Now, you want to save a couple more things up here in the post. So we want to definitely create a struct. A struct is, you should think of a struct. So first of all, you want to create a struct. Now a struct is basically just think of it as an array. And here, it's going to be strongly typed. So we're going to add in an address. It's going to have an address, which is going to be create. And we're going to have uint 256. is like count, and we're gonna have a bool, which is gonna be is like. There's gonna be all kinds of type of stuff, and we're gonna create a mapping, which is basically just a tuple. It's gonna be an address to bool likes. That's pretty much how this struct is gonna be built up. Now next up, we want to create a separate mapping, which is gonna be an address. We're going to map the address to a bool again, and it's going to be a public one, and we'll call it did. Once you call it and pass in an address, it's going to basically tell you whether that address liked the post or not. Pretty simple. And one more is we're going to create actually we should do this up here. We're going to create an array out of these likers. Oh, struct. I said you should think of it as an array. You should think of it as an object instead. It's an object, okay? Struct object is the array. That was a mess up on my end. So likers, you create an array of objects, and this is gonna be a public thingy, and just create a likers. Or actually, we can just call it likes array. Now, once that's good, no one says good. You remember how we had to, actually, let me just pull it up again. Remember how you had to call every single detail one by one? That's not really efficient. So what we want to do is just create one function that will literally send back all the data. So we're just going to call it function get post details. And so create that post. It's going to be a public view, and it will return an address. It will return a string from the memory. Every single time we'll return another string from the memory. Wait, what am I typing? Might as well explain it. So address is going to be the author. This string memory, basically you want to return all these in some sort of an order. But in the return clause, you want to make sure that this order, the data type order, matches on how you want to return it. So I'm just going to copy this down just so I have a reference and paste it here. And so I can refer back to it. So once again, an address for the author, a string for the title, another string for tag. Basically 4 strings from the memory. So we already got 2, 3, and 4. And you want to return a uint265. Now, this looks a little weird, so I'm just going to format it a little bit. And so here we go. Now next up, all we will do is literally just return and then go author, post title, tag, timestamp, content, like count. And you're basically good. Once again, you want to double check that author is addressed. Like the data structure here, like all the data types, the order of the data types here matches the data types of these variables. And if that's true, you're technically good with this function. Now, I'm not going to test out one function every single time. So I'm just going to create the new function, which is going to be like post. And that'll take in nothing, and it will be a public post. What the fuck, man? It'll be a public one, and we're just gonna do like a guard clause up here. So we'll require that the mapping up here, this guy, and we're gonna pass in the message sender address. So what we're gonna do is did like and message.sender equals false. And if this is true, meaning the person, no. So if this is true, we just let the function to run. But if this is false, meaning the did like message sender is true, meaning the person already like that, this is gonna be the error that we put out, right? Basically, you all already liked this post. That's it. And just close that. Once again, this require, what does it do? Require means that it is guarding everything that comes after. So we require that the person who tries to leave a specific post didn't like it before. This is our requirement. If that's not set it, or if that requirement is not met, we're going to pass back this exact error message. If that requirement checks out, we're good to move forward. So might as well immediately just set that to true. They can't like it ever again. And we're going to increase the like count by 1. And we're going to put, there's also likers addresses. And then we also want to create an array out of all the addresses. Wait, what the fuck? And you also want to keep track of everybody who liked the post. So what you want to do is likers addresses. Actually, you want to keep track of all the addresses that like the post. So you want to scroll up and create an array of addresses, which we will call likers addresses. So likers addresses. And we're good. And so we come down here and then just push the message sender in there. So we'll use it in the front end. Don't worry about it for now. That's basically it. Now, let's go ahead and deploy all these contracts again. So we don't have to redeploy the block factory. That's good to go. However, I'm going to remove that and all the history here. So I'm just going to create like another post instance. We're going to have title 2, tag 2, time 2, and content 2. Hit transact and get back the result. Now, if you look at it, we already have 2 addresses here. So you want to grab the second one, because otherwise you're going to redeploy the first one, which is obviously not good. So paste that here and put the details there. So go title 2 and go here. Copy this guy, paste it, tag 2, time 2, and content 2. Hit add address, and you should be good to go. Whoa. So this happened because it didn't compile the post again. So let's try that. Let's try doing that, because that would be a good idea. And I'm just going to remove this deployment. So this is your reminder that before you deploy a new post, you want to compile it. So you saw this in real time going bad. So we're going to try it again. The only thing that's going to change is I'm going to rename title to title 23. Call this guy again. And now I'm going to pick the third address, paste it there, and title 23, tag, we need the address. That's not even that address. This is the address. And also friendly reminder, like, don't ever hit Command A on Remix, because it does this weird stuff and then you have to just restart it. So interesting things. We're early. This is blockchain. So technically you should still have that address. Okay. So you got to repaste everything. Title 2, 3, and then the address, this address, paste it, tag 2, time 2, and content 2. Hit add address. And now there you go. Like, now there's a bunch of more stuff here. So now you got all the author, content, yada yada. But now you have this get post details. So let's call that. Wow. So that's interesting. So I think what happened is I have the wrong, like I deployed it to the wrong address. So let's try this again. We're gonna create a new factory item. Title 4, tag 4, time 4, and content 4. Hit transact, call it, get the very last one, paste it right here, 4, and hit at address. And we should be good now, right? Get post detail. What the fuck? So now that we're done with all the functions, we're technically done. Whoa. So we're technically done with all the functions, and basically all our contract is ready to go. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and test it out. So before we even get into it, let's hit connect there. Let's just remove everything from all kinds of history, because you have to recompile all your contracts and you have to redeploy them all. So just remove everything. All the ones not going to work, not even the compilation. So let's get started there. So we're going to go back to the block factory file and select that, compile that guy. Let's see if that goes through. Okay, that should be good. We got, here we got the metadata, whatever. So we can just close that. Actually, I'm even going to turn on my do not disturb mode. Okay, so my factor is my new factory is compiled, which by the way, it didn't really change, but because it's like interacting with the post itself, it does change. So you definitely make sure you recompile it. So now go ahead, deploy that guy. And I'm just going to, let's make it actually bigger. So it like jumps together like that. And what should we call it? This is a title. We're going to have a tag. Again, it doesn't really matter. It's only for testing purposes. So hit transact. All the gas used. Perfect. Now let's call that. So that's your address that you want to deploy the post at. So now what you will do is go back to your, select the post in a compiler. Compile that. Just wait for it. Wait for it. Okay, we're good. This will show up once it's good to go. And you can literally copy all this stuff. So this is your reminder. Don't ever press Command A in this Explorer thingy. I don't know if I said that before, but I always mess it up. And this is what happens. So yeah, I'm just going to type everything in here like that. I think it's still visible because I can see it. And just hit @address down here. Like you'll probably see it. Actually, let me just restart. All right, so post. Let's compile that guy. Okay, title. Yeah, we lost that. Okay, that's fine. I got that on copy. So we're gonna come in, copy this address, paste it, put tag, put time, put content in there. And before I mess it up, copy this address, put it right there. And that'll be the address where we're going to deploy this. Fingers crossed it's going to work. Bam. Hit add address. And we should... Oh, there you go. We got it. And if you remember, last time we only had a couple things that we could call. Now we can transact and do all kinds of stuff. So the big difference here, when you call, it's like a GET request for an API. When you transact, it's like a POST request for an API. So that's mainly what it is, and that's how you should think about these things. You're all these basic stuff, still working, get back the content, whatever. That doesn't really matter. Now, what we came here for the get post details. So click that guy, and look at that. You literally get everything back in a strange object, but you get it back. So that's cool. You can at least do something with it on the front end. We'll get that to you in later. So now what we want to test out is literally the two functions that we just built. So one of them was the get post details, which we literally just tested out. And the other one is the like post. So come here, like post, hit transact. I'll clear that out. So that should have probably gone through. Now let's check on like count. It should be 1, right? And there you go. Now it says 1. If it doesn't, rewind back, figure out where the error is at. Once again, I'll just show the entire so you can pause it and check it out. So here's a slow scrolling. That should be pretty much sufficient to find the error. And pause the video, take your time. And if we get post details, you see that 5th thingy? That says 1 now. Before it said 0. And if you ask me what that is, it's literally the 5th thing that's being... So what's the 5th thing that's being written? Author 1, post up 2, tag, timestamp, yada. That's a like count. So that again works. So it seems like we were able to like the post. We were able to do all kinds of stuff with it. Now I guess it's time we connect it to the front end. So I guess I'll see you there. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get started connecting our MetaMask. So that is actually going to happen in our index.js file. So what we're going to need here is a couple of things. First off, we're going to have to import a bunch of things from Rainbow. So we're going to go ahead and import rainbow -me slash rainbow kit slash styles.css. So there's that. Next up, we're going to go ahead and import get default wallets and rainbow kit provider, again from Rainbow. And by the way, this already comes with the CLI tool, so you don't have to install any of this. Then we're going to go ahead and import chain, configure chain, create client, and wagme config. config from wagme. And then we're going to import two providers. Now, one of them is going to be Infura provider from wagme / providers / Infura, like that. And then we're going to import JSON RPC provider, like that. I don't know if that's the, yeah, JSON RPC like that. So this one is going to be important when we set up the local contract connection. So that's where it's going to come in. And I believe this is all we need for the MetaMask connection. All right. So what we're going to be doing now is right under, actually, we don't need to worry about this custom styles. We can just work above here. So what we're going to do is const chains and provider. And we're going to destructure that. And we're going to go configure chains. Let's close that so we don't have any error going on. And we're going to configure chain.girly like that. And we're also going to configure chain.localhost. So these are the ones that are going to be showing up. Like these are the chains this app is going to be compatible with. So these are going to go into that array. And we're going to go in. Look at that. And we're going to go ahead and go in and configure both. So we're going to create a Infura provider. And here we're going to need an API key. Like that. I'm just going to leave it for a little bit. And we're going to set it up in 1 second. Now, you also want to make sure that this has a priority of 1. Meaning that no matter what, Infura will take priority 1. If both the chains are available, it's going to go with the girly chain, meaning we'll be using Infura mainly. And if that's not sufficient for whatever we're trying to do, then we're going to go on and use the other provider, which we're going to be setting up in a little bit. Let's just take a look at what's happening here. I think we don't need this object. Yeah. And the other that we're going to be creating is the JSON RPC provider. And that'll have a priority number 2. So it comes after Infura. We're going to create an RPC. It's going to be a chain DP. And this will be this same exact RPC server that Josh is giving to us. So paste that there. And that should be pretty much set up. So now our chains are configured. So this application is going to be, once again, compatible with the girly and the local running chains. And so these will be the providers for them. Now you can, by the way, configure as many as you want, but there's no need for that for now. All right, so next up, what we're going to do is create the connectors. And that'll be just a get default wallets. And we're going to pass in a couple things here. We're just going to name it, what is it? Dev.to blog app, just like that. And we're just going to pass in the chains. So this will be responsible. Like, this will all come together in a second. Let's just finish it. So next up, we're going to create a wagme client. And that'll be, we're going to have to configure it with a create client. We want to make sure that auto connect is on true. We pass in all the connectors from here, and we're going to pass in provider, which again comes from here. All right, so that's pretty much all the prep code that we're going to be using up here. Now it's time to come down here. So we're going to be wrapping this whole entire application in 2 hooks. So let's see, what do we got? We got wagme config, and we're going to pass in a client. And the client will be the wagme client. So this one that we just generated. Let's close that guy. And next up, we're going to have a Rainbow Kit provider. And for that, we're going to pass in all the chains that we generated here. So those. So that should be pretty much almost good to go. Now copy that, go all the way down, wrap that first in there, and then copy the wagme closing one and wrap that there. And actually there's this empty JSX fragment. Now we're not even needing it because these two wrap the entire app up. So that should be so far so good. Now what we're going to be doing next is there's a MetaMask.js file. This guy. We need to set this guy because the app itself, if you refresh, this is what happens there. So now we set up all the backend for bot connection. Now we actually have to set up the front end for it. So this is what we see here. And there's literally two things that we need to import here. One of them is the styles file. So let's just go get that from here. We can just paste it right there. And then the other one is going to be a connect button, which comes from the same Rainbow kit. And instead of this div, we're just going to be rendering out this connect button. That should technically be enough. Let's see. What do we got? Yeah, that's perfect. I'm just going to hit that. Wow. Yeah, it takes a little time when you initially open it up and before, like prior, your MetaMask was connecting to Ganache. So just wait for it a little bit and you should be good. Or you can just go with a different network, unlock it, and we should be good to go. Okay, yeah, whatever, switch network. That's completely fine. So it thinks we have all these networks here. We gotta fix that in a little bit. That's interesting. So there's a couple of weird things going on here. Let's address this one first, which I don't really get why it's happening, but okay. So after refreshing, okay, it still shows all these up. So that should be interesting. Okay, so right now, when you select that, it actually shows all these items. That's not really sure why it's happening, but I have a hunch this has something to do with it. So that API key is not valid. So what I'm going to do is go to Infura. And once again, you can use the link down below in the description. So just use that. And then come in here into blog app. Let's see, manage key. And Girdley. That should be my key. Will be blurred out. And you want to create a file called env.local. So once you create that, you just type in Infura API key. Just paste that key that you have. And up here, you want to come in and say process.env. Infura API. Infura API key. Like that. So let's restart this app. Let's see if that helped. Oh, that didn't help just yet. Oh. So let's see if that helped. Let's restart this app. And it should probably solve it. Let's see. Okay. It didn't. Okay. So you see how we are exporting chains out of here? And I'm just importing chain. That'll be the issue. Let's see. There you go. Now we have the two chains that we actually wanted to work with. And because we're going to be using the local version of the contract for now, we're going to be going with that. It's a little faster than any kind of testnet. So we're just going to go with that. All right. Let's see what we got next up. So we got the MetaMask wallet connection. So good job if you made it this far. And now we're going to go ahead and do something else. And now we're going to go ahead and connect the contract with our front end. So I'll see you there. All right, it is time we actually go ahead and connect our contract with our front end. So let's get started. Let's do that. Okay. Actually. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to create a context file first of all. So how does that even get started? All right. Okay, so to get started with the context, you will need a new folder called context in the app folder, and we apparently already have it. Ooh. All right, so to get started with the context, what we're going to be doing is just go ahead and create a context folder inside your app folder. Inside there, you're just going to go ahead and create a context.js file. Now, once that is done, you're going to import a couple things. First of all, create context and use context because we're going to use it immediately right in here. And actually, while we're at it, let's go ahead and import use state and use effect, because we're going to be using these anyways. So might as well just get started importing them. And we're going to be creating the instances. So in the utils folder inside of instances, wow, what is this red arrow? Anyways, so we should technically already have this file set up, and we already pasted this address right here. So there should be no worries about this one. Oh, so you should already have access to this file, and I believe we already put the address right here, so that should be good to go. So what we're going to be doing next is we're going to be importing the blog and the factory instance, which we are exporting from right there. So let's do blog instance and factory instance, not from there. Utils contracts instant, utils and instances. All right, so that should be good now. And the other thing, which we already installed with the CLI, is going to be Web3. This is Web3.js. So we're going to be using that. And now let's go ahead and create a app context right now. So once we created that should be good. And we'll also need to be creating a provider. So app provider. There's a lot of boilerplate code with when it comes to context API. So just get the pattern in and you should technically be able to remember it pretty easily afterwards, or you can just go back to a previous. What is happening here? Why is it being removed? Yeah, there you go. So if you have a context file from the past, you can literally just copy these codes, like the boilerplate code. There's just pattern recognition. Once you do it like once or twice, you will get it in. All right, and then we're going to be returning app context dot provider, and we're going to be passing in the children right here. Just for good measure, I will create a test file, which will be literally just test. And I like to my context like this. Let's just immediately pass it in there. And the other thing that we'll be doing is we're just like straight away create a hook with it, so we don't have that much code to deal with later on. And so what we're going to be doing is use context, and we're just going to pass in app context. That should basically be the most bare bone context API file that we're going to be using later on, and like whenever you're in the future. But this will change. Yeah, obviously that will change. Okay, so let's go into app.js. And we're going to be importing app provider. And that's the thing that we're going to wrap our app. So we're going to use the app provider and wrap it around our app. That's basically what's happening here. So what that means is everything that is in here will have access to everything in our app provider if we set up everything correctly. So to test that out, what I usually like to do is go into my index file, and in here just go ahead and import use app context from the context file, and scroll down where you see the router and where the component itself starts. And so what you want to do is just deconstruct test from use app context and straight away console log it. And if you will see test next to a fire emoji like that, wish it showed up though. Okay, we're gonna have an alarm in that case. So just go ahead, hit inspect. Oh, it opened up on my other screen. All right, there you go. So if you go ahead, hit console, there you go. Next to the alarm, it says test. So that means our context is working and it's ready to go. Now there's a couple more things that I want to get done before we just wrap up and call the context a day, because we really want to set it up properly. So let's remove test because we don't need it. So there's a couple more things that I want to get done before we move on from the context. So as you can see, I removed all the test related stuff from the context as well. So what you want to do is go ahead and just create we're going to initialize all the Web3 related stuff before we even move on, so we don't have to worry about that later. So what we'll do is we'll create a contract instance and set contract instance that's going to be use state, and the initial value is going to be null. Then we're going to create a const Web3 instance. Same deal, moving on. And current wallet address, same. Oops, blog addresses. Because remember, every single post has a separate address. And we're going to create a post, set post, and this will store the post data. So now that we're good here, let's actually go ahead and export posts immediately. And also, while we're at it, current wallet address as well. Jeez. Okay, so now that we exported these two, we're going to go ahead and actually change all kinds of rendering to this, so we don't have these random stuff happening. So what we're going to do is just get posts from use up context, and then just change it. And whenever we fetch all the posts that are deployed to using our factory, they're going to be automatically rendered out here. So that's good. Actually, I don't think we have to worry about the current address just yet. All right. But what we do need to worry about is we have to create the Web3 instance. So how do we do that? We go and say let Ethereum, and initially it's just going to be null. The reason why it's null is sometimes MetaMask takes a little longer than what it's supposed to be injected into the website. So for now, like, we just initialize it as a null. And then what we're going to do is if type of window is undefined, we're just going to, or the type of the window is not undefined, meaning there is code already and it's working. And we're going to go and be like, hey, Ethereum should be this part of the window. What is window, you ask? Window is literally all the code that is when you like inspect. Yeah, all this. Actually, it's the page source to be exact. Like all that stuff. Like all this code that you see here, that's all the window. Now, in there's a variable called Ethereum, and that's being injected because you have MetaMask installed. And every single website that you visit, and every single website that you visit with MetaMask in your browser is going to have that code. Even if it's Facebook, even if it's Instagram, whatever it is, as long as you have MetaMask there, it's going to be injected into your website. There's something to be aware of. Now, this is cool. We just saved it here. And now what you want to do is create a use effect down here. Remove all this junk. And create a guard clause. Just like how we did it. Just like how we did it in the contract itself. So what we're going to say is if Ethereum doesn't exist, or if it's like a falsy value, because null has a falsy value. If you put it into a Boolean, it's going to return false. So if that's the case, then just return it. Don't even bother. And because it's a dependency, you want to pass it into the dependency array. However, if it exists, what you want to do is we're going to create a self-executing. I don't really know what's the official name. Okay, so it's called self-executing apparently. If Stack Overflow says so, hell yeah. So yeah, apparently it's called self-executing function. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're just going to give it a name just so it's easier to understand if someone else was to hack our code. So I'll just call it create web3 client and open close parens and put async, because it's going to be an async function, and use effect is always synchronous. You cannot make it a use effect async. Just create the function here and right after open close parens. What this does is you don't even have to call this function. It will just execute itself. It will get it done. And you could always get away with it like this. You can replace that with a semicolon, but it's not as easy to read, and it's just like a good description for other developers. So it's better for collaboration purposes. The more you know. So what you want to do is say const web3 is going to be a new web3, and you want to pass in Ethereum, and straight after that, set the web3 instance to this guy. However, there is a time difference between state setting and the execution, and state setting usually takes just a little bit longer. So inside this function, it is highly recommended that you only use the local variables. And then later down the line, like in other functions, we're going to be using the state. So what we're going to be doing is going to say const accounts and await call Web3, again, this variable here. And we're going to say eth.getAccount without typos preferably, because that helps, they say. And now that we have the account, we're going to go ahead and say set current wallet address. And it's going to be the first account, because I don't know about you, but personally I only have 2 accounts, but you get the point. The first that is being connected, and I could also connect this guy to this website. So there you go. Now there's 2 connected, and always the one that has the little check mark thingy, always that's the one that's going to be showing up as the first. So you want to get this address because that's the current address. So that's why we do this. And then moving on, we're going to have contract, and we're going to say await, and we're going to say factory instance, and we're just going to go ahead and pass in Web3. That's it. And set contract interest instance, and we're to go. And since this is the only contract that we're going to be interacting with, there's no need for anything else to be saved. So with that done, we should be pretty much ready to go and start publishing posts. Okay, moving on to the next thing, which is going to be creating posts. So, all right, so what you want to do is go ahead and just create a function. All right, so how do we get started? We're going to go ahead, obviously, create a function. So we're going to call it create blog post. This will be an async function. And we need a couple things in here. So we need title, we need tag, and we need a text or content or whatever. I'm just going to go with text because it's the content text basically. All right, so now guard clause, because everything in blockchain can fail. We're early, so we're just going to guard ourselves. If there is no current wallet address, there is no point in the entire thing because we need to send that in. Remember, in the factory, here, we require the message sender. The message sender only exists if here we have a current wallet address. Otherwise, the contract will fail, and we don't even want to get there. Like, we just want to save ourselves a lot of headache. You don't want to debug on the blockchain because it's way harder than it should be. So just save everything and guard yourself. All right, moving on. You also want to have a try catch clause or like a try catch thing for you. So you want to catch the error and then console.error message. That's it. That's going to be a catch. That's basically all we want to see there. Now, in the tries where things are going to get tricky, that's where the magic is going to happen. So you're going to say await, and we'll have a contract instance, and we're going to call methods from the contract instance, and we're going to be calling the create blog post method. Now, if you remember, this is literally how we call this function. So I'll just actually put it here. It'll make life so much easier. So create blog post, and when it comes to transacting something, so basically you want to push something onto the blockchain, you gotta pay gas fees. That's just how it works. That's how the blockchain taxes you. So to do that, what you want to do is say send afterwards, and in there you want to pass in an object. Now that object is going to have a from value, which will be the wallet address. That will have your MetaMask pop open, and you will have to pay those gas fees. Almost at taxes. Jeez. Now, create blog post. It also requires a couple of things. So we need the title, we need the tag, we need the timestamp, and we need content. And we also need to pass in the message sender, but no, we actually don't need to send it in because it will know it. Okay, so we gotta pass in a couple of things. So to make it work, Okay, so as you can see, it is requiring a couple things. So we need to pass in these 1, 2, 3, 4 things here. So what do we have access to? Straight out the box, we have title, we have tag, and we have something that's going to be the timestamp, and then we're going to be sending text. So those are the things that we have access to immediately. Now, we gotta pass in the current timestamp in a string format. So how do we do that? Everybody is probably familiar with date.now, but this is going to be in date time string. So we're just gonna call a toString on it. So now it's string. Oh, there we go. And so we have everything ready to go. Technically, it should already work. Let's actually test it out. So we wanna pass this out from the context. So we have access to it elsewhere. And an index, and there is a file called create post modal. Now here what you want to do is import use app context, and inside of and you want to get the create blog post function. So like you want to destructure that function and you want to get that out from the context. So we got this guy, and this was actually a placeholder, so we can just remove that line. Oh, wait, no. Okay. All right, so once you're in the modal file, what you want to do is import the use app context thingy and then destructure create blog post out of it. Now, you just want to replace that there, and you should technically be good to go right there. So what that's going to do is we already have this handle submit function set up for your convenience, and all you need to do is destructure this file, and then it's going to be called right there. Let's actually test it out, I think. So we're going to do it. I'm just going to open this inspector, but put it on the other side, and let's see the console. So I have my MetaMask connected, so that's cool. And I'm going to hit create post. I'm going to type in this is my first post. And you like this build so far. Actually, if you do, just press that like button, right? Why not? All right, let's hit submit. Okay, my MetaMask is popping open. That's good. That's a good sign. I can confirm it. I did confirm it. And let's see, what do we see in MetaMask? It says correct interaction, and it's supposed to be successful. So we'll see it in a little bit if anything happened. But right now, this technically should have gone in, and it should have gone ahead and created us a new post. So might as well let's go ahead and render that out. Bad. Time to render out all the posts. Bad. It's time to render out all the posts in it. So because we already set up post thingy, I'm not even the right file. This is the file. Because we already set up this post guy and we already exported it here, and then in index we already imported, and that's what we use here to render out all the posts. We should be good to go. We should be pretty good to go and ready to fetch all the posts. Oh yeah, isn't it? All right, in it, mate. Let's go ahead and get started with the get post content function. That's literally all we're gonna be doing now. So call it const get post content, like that. Oh, okay. All right, mate. Hope you're all right, bet. As of right now, we are ready to start rendering out all our posts, and because we already set it up, there's the state, there's us exporting it. I don't know why am I pointing at the screen. You only to see it. Don't see when I'm doing it, whatever. And here, we already used that to render out the nothingness. That's completely fine, because now it's nothing, but we're going to get them back. So let's revise real quick. What were the steps? So once again, what did we do? We had to get an array of all the posts that we have, of all the posts that we created. All right, so basically there's a couple of steps that we have to make in order to get back each specific post one by one. So what we got to do is we got to call this function, which is just going to return an array of addresses, basically the post addresses. And then each and every single address, we gotta fetch and call the get post details function. So let's actually do that. Basically, these are the two steps that we gotta be doing. All right. So first of all, we're gonna need to return all those blog addresses and put them right in here. So how are you gonna do that? Create a get post addresses function. It's going to be async, and we're going to pass in a contract. And if we don't pass it in, we're just going to go with the default contract instance that already exists. Nice. So let's just put in a try catch, just like that, and then console.error, and then just pass in error, and let's move on with getting stuff done here. So what we're going to say is const addresses, and we're going to call await contract dot methods dot, and what was the name again? It was get uploaded post. So that's what we're going to be putting there, and then we're just going to put a call after because we got to call it. That's pretty much it. And we're just going to go ahead and set that to be the blog addresses. So just for good measure, let's actually console log the blog addresses, and let's see what do we get. That's interesting. It says 0. There was some sort of there was something going on. Oh, obviously, if you don't call the function, like why would it even run? So that makes sense. I'm just gonna put the get upload. Actually, we should put that right in here. So get uploaded post addresses like that in here, and pass in the contract there. Let's just do it like that. Like it's actually called a rail function. So let's see what we got. If we do that, all right, okay, there we go. There's the post that we just minted or uploaded or factoried, whatever. Here's the post address. That's our address that we're going to be working with. And moving on, what we also want to do is create a specific post content getter fetcher function. So how that's going to look like is we're going to say get post content, and we're going to say async, and we got to pass in. And so we're going to say get posts content because we're going to get all the post content immediately, and we don't even need to pass in literally anything. Just leave it empty, and there we go. What we're going to do though is create a separate use effect, and every single time the blog addresses change, we're going to be firing that get posts content off. So that should be pretty good. That should fire it off. So let's test that out. We're just gonna console object out. Yeah, there you go. It got fired. We're good to go. All right. So what are we gonna be actually doing here? We're going to fetch every single post one by one. So let's go ahead and say fetched post, or fetched post, yeah, and go await, and it's gonna be a promise all, because there's going to be a bunch of promises in here. So we're going to map through all the blog addresses. All right. So we're going to grab one, like each address one by one. We're going to be like post blog instance, because we have access to the blog instance from here. So what we're going to be doing, we have the blog instance. We're going to be passing in a Web3 instance and the address, and we're going to create that. That's going to be our post. And then on the post, we're going to return the actual call, like we're going to return the method call. So it's going to be methods dot, and we're going to go to post.sol because I don't want to mess it up. It's going to be get post details. So paste that function and call. That should be the thing that we return. Now let's see, what do we got? Why is it not working? Maybe I need to close that brand, and then maybe another one. Yeah, that seems fine. It looks way better. Now, once we got the fetched posts because remember, this is just going to be a bunch of promises that are resolved. It's going to be, actually, let me show you how it's going to look like. Yeah. Did it even run? Oh, there you go. It's going to be a U in there, and it's going to be like weird looking. Now imagine this for, actually, let me just create a second post. So this is my second post, second, and yo, let's just do it that way. Submit. Nice. Hit confirm. And let's just refresh real quick. Let's see what the response is. See, there are like 2 U's and whatever is going on. It's not going to be easy to interact with it like that. So what I like to create at this point is I'm just going to say const formatted post 1. Actually, posts. And I'm just going to say fetched posts. And for each individual post, I will also get the index. Close that guy before we got all kinds of errors. And actually, we should do it like that so there's no need for the return keyword. So index, index, and then one by one. Title, actually, let's see, what do we got? We got all, try to copy this. Let's see if it works. And that will make our lives easier. Yeah, let's put it, yeah. Okay, it gets the point across. It's like, yeah, it's like Chrome's weird annotation, but like it gets the point across. Each trade is gonna be like that. So I'm just gonna put extra stuff in here. So this is basically the response that we are getting back. So that's pretty cool. So we already created a index, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna have the author first. It's gonna be post.0, and we're gonna have a title, which is gonna be post 1, and then we're gonna have tag, and then we're gonna have timestamp. It's going to be number 3, content number 4, and likes count, or we can go likers. Likes, woohoo. Likes is going to be number 5. So we're good there. Whatever. So we're good there. I'm just going to delete this because it just clutters up the space. And next up, what we're going to be doing is go ahead and say set post formatted post. Now, the only issue is when we do this, see, the second post comes after my first post. Oh, by the way, congratulations. You literally just rendered all your posts if you didn't make a mistake. Congrats on that. I completely forgot that's why I came here. Anyway, second post comes after, and every single time that I'm going to create a new post, it's going to come down here, and that's not how any of the logs work. So what we can do also is just a real simple JavaScript trick, and you just put in reverse, and there you go. This is more realistic, and this is how it actually works. And now you see there's your tag, there's your title. I don't see the content for whatever reason, but we'll figure that one out in a second. So I don't see the content just yet, but that's gonna be something that we'll figure out. And I think it's because I named this not the way I was supposed to. So actually, let's call it post text, and there you go. So yeah, hope you enjoyed so far. We're actually at the final stretch. We just completed 2 tasks without noticing it, so that's pretty good. And now the only thing that we'll have to do is liking each individual post, rendering that back out, and we're ready to go. All right, Heidi, last bit of this video. Get yourself a coffee because I won't. Get ready. We're about to finish this bad boy up. All right. Liking posts is what we're going to be doing. So yeah, I guess let's just get started with that. Now let's just check out a couple of things. Post SOL. So first of all, we only send back like count, not every single person who likes it. So we want to send this guy back to you. That means we'll have to redeploy this contract, but that's fine. Easy. And what that means is add a comma, address, array, memory. Good. It should be technically good because we want this one as well. The reason why I just ran through that super fast, I just added that. The reason why we need it in the first place is every single person that liked the post has a wallet address. That is going to be stored in that array. Now, when I have address to the array so that we can check whether the person that is currently actively using the app has liked the specific post. How do we check that? Pass that in, and if the user's current address exists in that array, then we're just gonna turn this bad boy red. Something like that. Yes, it's totally not how it's gonna look like. Anyways, so we're gonna do that, and one thing I'd like to always do is just get rid of all kinds of unnecessary console logging. Yeah, there is one, and then where's the other one? There. So there's no need for any of them like whatsoever, and it also like keeps my console cleaner. So see, so much nicer. All right, now what we're going to be doing though is we will have to go back to output, and we'll have to actually remove both of these instances. We're going to remove that guy and post this. Yada. Okay, so let's build this contract. Let's see if everything passes, and if it does, we're good to go, and we're good to deploy. So let's see what we got. Everything is up to date is what it says. I don't believe that because I literally just changed it. I'll just remove this though, just to be on the safe side. And truffle compile. Actually, that's legit. I just realized the ABI doesn't really change unless you mess with the stuff you need to pass in, or the name, I believe. The ABI actually shouldn't really be affected. I'm a paranoid, so I just prefer, but there's like changes in here. So I'm not entirely sure how the new ABI is being generated or not, but for good measure, if you mess with the contract, just update your ABI and there's you won't have any kind of issues. Anyways, let's deploy blog factory to local, and let's see what we get. Okay, there's our contract address. Go to instances, paste that bad boy, and it should be empty. All right, what's good here? Okay, so that was just like a leftover. So you just refresh it a couple times. Cool. So it is a empty folder, so that's good. Now in context, we will actually get an extra one more. We'll get one more. We'll get one more trait here, or like property or something, and I'm just gonna call it likers, almost like Lakers. And let's actually just console log post, and that should be just about enough to confirm that everything works. Okay, so we get an empty post. That's pretty good. I also want to make it like more dynamic. So we know that we have this use effect that kicks the get post content whenever blog addresses change. However, there's nothing, like it initially gets fetched, but when I upload a new post, it doesn't get kicked again. So what I want to do is after I'm done creating the new post here, after the await, I'll just put this guy in, and that'll kick the chain reaction. It's like once the new post address is being fetched and it's in the post addresses array, this use effect will go ahead and kick this function, and we'll have the new post come in immediately. React is good. Okay. All right, so let's just double check what do we got here. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new post. So this is my first post. Hope it makes sense. It's like 5 p.m. I've been shooting this tutorial for the entire day, so I'm tired. All right, just leave it at that. First, whatever. Smash that like button and subscribe. Have you done that? I'll wait. All right. If you haven't done that, like, why? Come on. All right, anyways. Submit. Confirm. Bam. There you go. Okay. Let's see, what do we got? And likers is an empty array. So that's a good sign. We got that guy back. We should be good there. So we're good there. And now what we're going to do is when I hit this like button, I want my MetaMask to pop open and send it all. See, how do we do that? So in here, we're just gonna say, go ahead and say const like post. And the one thing that we're gonna need this time is going to be a post index, which we'll have access to it like somewhere in the app. We're gonna get to it in a second, but that's going to be our input for this one. And once again, we just want to make sure we have the guard clause from here. That guard clause, let's just put that there. I want the wallet to exist, because again, we are transacting, and if the person decides to disconnect their wallet, it's just gonna fail. So let's not do that. Try catch, nice. Console log, let's do console error, nice. And it's literally await blog instance. We're going to pass in the Web3 instance, and the blog address is .post index. What this will do is it will grab out one address. So we all know how this instance builder that we have set up here is waiting for the 3 instance and address. So that guy will need an address. And so which address are we passing in? The specific post that we are liking. There's that. Now, after that, we're going to go ahead and say dot methods dot like post, I believe. Let's just double check post as well. And see, yeah, that's the function. Copy that guy, come right back here. And where was I? Oh, right there. Add that function on top. And because it is a post functionality, would be if it was a backend API, but because it would be like that. So it's like the writing onto the contract. All right. So we need to send it, not call it. We don't read from the contract, we write on the contract. And so we just pass in from current wallet address. So that should be pretty much good to go. And now what we're going to do is say get post content, because we need to refresh all the posts. But remember, the reason why we get all the post addresses this here when we create a new one is because that's what changes. But in this case, the post addresses don't change. It's just one trait of the post itself changes, and that's it. So let's see if we need to do anything else. Yeah, we should probably connect that like functionality to the button. That would be a pretty good idea. So let's come down here, export that from there. And let's go into post.js. Now in here, there's going to be a couple of things that we're going to be doing. So step 1, we're going to be importing use app context from there. So that's helpful. While we're at it, let's go ahead and make sure we are exporting the current wallet address. Yes, we do. So that's cool, because this is the time. I don't know if you remember, but I probably said it when we like initiated the context. This is when we're going to be using current wallet address. This is when we're going to check it against the likers right here. So let's actually just do that real quick. So what you want to do first and foremost is go and say wallet address and like post. Just grab those out from use app context. And the initial value of this is not going to be false, but it's going to be likers dot includes, and we're going to pass in current wallet address. And once we hit the like button, that should technically be connected to, so that's connected already to this heart icon, which changes based on whether the post is liked or not. We have this handle click function right here. And this guy, what we want to do with that is we want to say await, because it's an async function. And we'll say like post, but we got to pass in the index, which we're getting right here. So we have access to everything. The only thing we got to do right now is just call the functions, write the function, and that's it. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and update the set like thingy. And we should be pretty much good to go. Let's see if that works. So I'm going to tap that bad boy. Confirm. There you go. Now, this could have totally failed. I don't know. This could have. Because remember, I'm setting it here to true. So let's refresh and let's see if it actually went through. And it did. So ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much wraps up this Dev.to blog app that is using blockchain. So one more thing I want to do, and this is one thing, it's just code cleaning, and I'm not going to let you go without that. So yeah, let's just get rid of that because nobody needs that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the blog app. That wraps it up. If you've gone this far, congratulations. You're doing great. And I'll see you probably in the next one.